Pick something groovy, Alex.
Good evening and welcome to the Democratic Voice. Thank you for being with us this evening. We really appreciate you tuning in, and you are here to find out about the political system in Colorado and find out what's going to happen not only in August but in November. But first, let's say thank you to all of our service members, men and women serving worldwide, those first responders also, all the people that are out keeping us the free America that we are. We thank you for those things, and thank you, America, for supporting our troops. Let's support our troops, even though we can disagree with why they went someplace or why they're there. We must support our troops. Thank you again, all of our service members. We are very fortunate to have with us this evening, let me see, Fern O'Brien. Fern, thank you for being with us. We appreciate you very much and being a candidate. And Fern is going to be the next Attorney General of the great state of Colorado. Thank you again. And Fern, tell us about you. What would you like for us to know about Fern?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on, and I completely agree with you about the troops. We've got to support our troops, and we've got to make sure that they all come home safely. And I agree with you that we may disagree with why we are there, but we have to support our troops. So
Good.
Absolutely do. And I guess what I would like people to know is that I'm a private citizen who have never been in public office before, decided to run for Attorney General because I've been just disturbed on a personal level about what's been going on in our federal and our state government. And our leaders seem not to be operating in the best interests of all the people of the nation, all the people of Colorado, and I think it's time for a change. And so I decided to just step up and run for Attorney General. Great experience so far. It's really been wonderful. Hugely great responses from people, and just meeting so many people traveling around the state. It's been wonderful.
Oh, that's tremendous, but I noticed you forgot to tell me about Fern, the little personal things that we in El Paso County like to know about our Attorney General.
Okay, I grew up in Minnesota, and I'm a Swedish and Irish, a little bit German, I was a Peterson, I married an O'Brien, and went to work my way all through high school and went to the University of Minnesota, majored in humanities, which is usually the major reserved for people who have no idea what they're going to major in. And then moved to the East Coast, went to, with my husband, went to law school. I actually went to law school later in life when I had made it through. Actually graduated from law school with 2 children, and a lot of student loans, which are finally paid off,
Okay.
and moved to Colorado about 10.5 years ago.
Oh, so you're one of the working people. You are not one who was born with a silver spoon in your mouth and got to run off to law school and all of those things. You had to work
I
for a
had
living.
to
So
work.
you know what it is to be a working person. And now I understand why you're a Democrat. You are a person that knows what it's like to go out and make a living. Okay, Fern, now tell me, I'm not too familiar with all the things that the Attorney General does. What does the Attorney General do, by the way?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say that my grandfather was a union man and my dad was a union guy, and so I grew up in a union family and just absolutely support Colorado's working families. One of the things I want to do as Attorney General is to level the playing field for Colorado's working families. And the Attorney General's office, I like to describe it as a 220 lawyer law firm where their only client is the state of Colorado, really the people of Colorado. And so the Attorney General operates in the best interests of the people of Colorado, and in kind of the collective sense. And they've got a number of units. I mean, it's a large operation, and they've of course got crime unit, but really only mostly on the appellate level, and big consumer fraud, consumer protection. It's, Ken Salazar, who was our Attorney General until he became Senator, started a number of really great programs in the Consumer Protection Division that I would absolutely, continue with. Elder fraud, identity theft, internet predators, all of that comes out of the Consumer Protection Division. Mortgage lending fraud is a huge issue in Colorado. It's rampant, and as a result, we have one of the highest foreclosure rates, I think the highest foreclosure rate in the country right now. Mm-hmm. And part of it is also because we have no licensing of mortgage brokers, no licensing of contractors, and all of, that combined really adds to the mortgage broker and the lender make their commission based on the size of the loan. And so they're always pushing to get the biggest loan they can, and then they just walk away with their commissions, and the people are left with loans that are way too big for them to handle. And I think we've got to change that. I actually was talking to a veteran in Colorado Springs about 2 months ago, I think, and he told me that there are predatory lenders that line the streets outside Fort Carson, and a lot of those outfits do what are called payday loans.
Oh,
so
yes.
A soldier who can't quite make it from paycheck to paycheck will go into one of these storefront operations and borrow money against his next paycheck. But by the time his next paycheck arrives, it's not enough to cover the loan with all the interest and the hidden fees. And I just think we've got to protect our soldiers and all other Coloradans from these predatory business practices. And that's one of the things I really intend to do as Attorney General.
That is great. Whoa, let me interrupt then. You got me excited about something then, because yes, I see the things outside of Fort Carson and around many of the other military bases where those people are out lending money. And it's not only that, when I see credit cards at 25% interest and at 28% interest and all these things, that to me is, in the olden days, they put you in jail for doing those things, usury laws and things like this. So as the Attorney General, and before I go any further, do you like lawyer jokes, or?
Sure I do, yes.
How many lawyers did you say was in the Attorney General's office?
220.
220. Well, what do they call 200 lawyers at the bottom of the ocean? You know that one, right?
Yes, I do.
A good start.
That's right.
Okay, now that we got everything going at ease here.
Why always lawyers? Why always lawyers? I know.
Well, wait till I start talking about politicians.
There we go. I know. That's right. It's like jumping from the frying pan into the fire. Yeah, I agree.
Did you try being a used car salesman too in there any place?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
We won't hold you on that one. Okay, so the fraud division, when we're talking about those things, one of the most important things, and Ken Salazar, big shoes to get up and fill. Those shoes haven't been filled for a few months now. Last couple of years since Ken went to the Senate, we really needed someone up there that knew what they were doing, El Paso County. So let's think about those things. So when we talk about the fraud division, now I hear about other things like suits about water rights and everything. Do you get involved in those things?
Yes, the Attorney General's office has 2 water divisions. One deals primarily with the interstate water compacts, the agreements that we have with the other states. I mean, one of the things that I didn't realize that you learn, as I've learned, is that virtually every state west of the Mississippi gets water from Colorado. I mean, Colorado is, huge as a source of water, and as Coloradans, we really have to make sure that the water compacts are enforced and that we do keep our fair share of the water, because we need it. We absolutely need it. And then the other division is there are 7 water basins in the state of Colorado, and in the different areas. And the other division deals with the intrastate issues primarily. So that's kind of how it plays out. But during my campaign, I've traveled around a lot, and we were in Lamar and Ordway and Eads, the whole southeastern area, La Junta, and the water issues are very serious down there. I mean, the Arkansas Valley, you can go from town to town and you can see which towns have water and which towns don't have water.
Yes.
I mean, it's very stark, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It really, really is. So I think that what I have done is, and I'm in the process of doing, is I'm pulling together a task force of water experts, because I'm not a water expert, although I have learned a huge amount. I'm absolutely not a water expert. And I'm pulling together a group of experts to really advise me so that we can really set a policy that is fair in this state.
That's great. Jerry and I yesterday went on a tour of the Arkansas River. We were doing reconnaissance to see what the water was like. It's running pretty strong in the Arkansas right now.
It is.
Little flood down by Pueblo and all that stuff as we look back on them. But it's, El Paso County, right now we're involved trying to get a pipeline from Pueblo to Reservoir there with our water, which we already own the water there. It's just a matter of getting it moved to Colorado Springs and El Paso County. So that's one of the things that we're vitally interested in here. So we very much like for you, in all fairness, because we want to be fair with everyone, but we would like to have our water rights, being able to transport the water here. It's no use having the water if it's 40 miles down the road, this kind of thing.
And Ken was very involved in the water unit. He came from I think he headed up the Department of Natural Resources before he became Attorney General, and he was very involved in water issues. And I don't believe that our current AG is as involved, and I would like to pursue and carry on Ken's legacy of really being involved in the water issues. We were just in Durango over the 4th of July in that area, and that whole area, they have issues about not losing all their water to the Front Range. And so everybody has slightly different issues. But, and everybody has a right to water. There's no question about it in this state. So we just have to make sure it's done fairly.
Yes, and I would expect you to push hard. We, in the 5th Congressional District, our district goes from here to Leadville. So right in our district, we have people with many different views on what we should do with all the water, but we have to listen to everyone. That's what I think any politician or anybody serving their constituents should do, is to just listen and come up with the best ideas that's best for everyone.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, what I'd like to do when I'm Attorney General is really work with the legislature in terms of all of our natural resources and really strive for a balance between conservation and property rights and the economic well-being of our farming and ranching and resort communities. And I think that we can do that. And that will definitely be a goal of mine as Attorney General.
Another thing I have to ask you a question on, what's your feeling on eminent domain, because that's of great interest here in El Paso County?
I think that case, I think you're referring to was it the Rhode Island? Was it Connecticut or Rhode Island? I can't remember. I think it was, might have been Bridgeport. At any rate, was it Bridgeport? Yeah. And that case was really condemning, giving a government eminent domain for purposes of, rebuilding economically, like basically favoring one private individual or private organization over the rights of another. And eminent domain law talks about the public good, but I think that the Supreme Court really stretched the definition of the public good in that particular case. So
Stretched it. They broke it.
they
broke it,
really
but
did.
yeah.
It was a very surprising case to me. It
Well,
really truly was.
I like the way the Supreme, when some of the activists went out, going to take Supreme Court justice's house because under eminent domain. But what brought this up, I guess, is the super slab that we had out east from, from Wyoming to New Mexico and grabbed it up. The legislature took care of most of this, the problems in the last legislature, but we, as Attorney General, we would like to know that you're standing back there not going to give up on our property rights.
Absolutely not. I'm a big believer in property rights. I'm a big believer in keeping the government out of our private lives and off of our private property. And
out of our bedrooms, too.
And out of our bedrooms, absolutely, okay. And out of our gun closets.
All those things.
All those things.
Just keep the government out of those things.
That's right. That's
yes.
right.
You and I sound a lot alike.
We do. Yeah, we do.
Okay.
But I think that's really important. I mean, I know the Shivo case, the end-of-life decisions that are so often just heart-wrenching for families. To get the government involved in something like that is absolutely unacceptable to me. And the government has no place in those kinds of decisions. I'm also a big proponent of a woman's right to choose, and of Second Amendment rights. So yeah, the government definitely plays a role and an important role in our lives, but I don't think it should be our private decisions.
Yes, those private decisions should be left to those people that it's directly affecting.
That's right.
I feel about
That's absolutely right.
So it's their decision. This is America, and it should always remember that. Too many politicians think now we're talking about, King George and all those things, but we aren't when we talk about privacy and all those things. So that's my next question. Where do you stand on the privacy issues and all those things that we've heard so much about recently?
I find it very disturbing. I mean, to me, one of the bedrock principles of our democracy is that we're a nation of laws and that no one is above the law. And I think that, with George Bush's signing statements, we're for the people who don't know what a signing statement is, it's when the president is about to sign a bill into law, he typically would sign just like a little memorandum, which used to be, before George Bush, which used to be like who was in the room, kind of a commemoration of what happened during the signing for historical reasons. But George Bush has changed it so that he's basically saying everybody has to follow this law except for me if I don't want to, and that's really putting himself above the law, and I think that's really dangerous for our democracy, and I think that we have to step forward and say this cannot go on. This is a really serious breach of our democratic principles. So with respect to privacy, I mean, the wiretapping, I mean, again, that's putting yourself, and the agents of the Bush administration is, they're putting themselves outside of the law. The Fourth Amendment clearly requires warrants, clearly requires, probable cause, and it's got to be reasonable searches, and to absolutely do away with that. I mean, that is why the American Revolution was fought originally. It really, truly was, because the redcoats were breaking down people's doors and searching through and rifling through everybody's stuff and arresting people, which they're doing now, arresting people without charge, holding them without charge, and it's not a good thing. Yes. And I think all of us suffer from that, because we don't want that to happen to us if we're in a foreign place. And I think that we do have a leadership role in this world, and I think people do look to us to set an example, and I don't think we're setting a very good one right at the moment. But hopefully that will change in '06 and again in '08.
Well, I feel it's beginning to change presently, because the Supreme Court has found many of those things that you just talked about to be unconstitutional right now, and those things are changing. So we got to keep on keeping them changed until we get those things. You mean we didn't fight a revolution about tea?
There you go. That's right. That was right. I think tea was a very important part of it. Absolutely. Yeah, I do think that, tell me what you just said. Right
about
before the
tea. About the tea before that one?
Yeah, right before that. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, I'm old. I can't
I know,
remember
me
way
too,
back that
me
far.
too, me
No,
too. Okay.
no, we were talking about the freedoms and all those things. Right now, the Supreme Court has found that those things to be unconstitutional and things like this. So I
Yes.
think they will, what did they call it, the FISA law and all those things that we talked about.
And the FISA law does give, huge latitude to, the administration, but it's even with the widest latitude, it wasn't being followed, which it's hard to imagine why not. I mean, everybody benefits when those rules are followed, and I don't think that we are any safer, frankly, for having, I mean, I don't think that our Homeland Security is any more secure for having broken all those laws.
Not at all. That
No.
is, when we talk about those things. And so when you are the Attorney General and Bill Ritter is the governor, and we have a plurality as we do now in the House and in the Senate, what do you think would be some of the first things we should concentrate on as getting laws passed or enforced?
I think that, as somebody who, there were a number of bills that were vetoed by Owens in the last couple of years. I think that the Democratic legislature has operated in a really responsible fiscal manner.
Yes.
And they have gotten a huge amount done in the last couple of years. I really admire what they've done. And I think that they are absolutely on the right track. They have completely eliminated the waiting list for special needs children and enabling them to get education and other services. They are working on full-day kindergarten. They're working on juvenile programs that will help alleviate juvenile delinquency. The Attorney General is the top law enforcement officer of the state. And what I often say is, I would so much rather invest at the front end and get programs for kids, including school programs and including diversion programs, so that we can take kids and instead of and rehabilitate them for making one mistake in their lives, and then bring them back into the fold and make them tax-paying, law-abiding citizens again, as opposed to spending, I think Bill Ritter told me it was like $50,000 per prisoner per year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's $50,000 that is basically for warehousing what has turned into a wasted life. And I would so much prefer investing in the front end and having them, put them on the tax rolls and make them law-abiding citizens and make them contributing people. It makes our economy stronger. It makes our whole society stronger. And I think that is really important. That's really one of the things that I think I would concentrate on. We are building prisons at kind of record rates, and
Yes.
When I think that we're spending all that money doing that when we could be spending money in a much more effective way. I mean, education is always an investment, and it always comes back at least tenfold. And when you look at, I live up near in unincorporated Boulder County, but my son goes to CSU, and that's a thriving community. Colleges and institutions of higher learning really create strong economies. And the other thing that I would love to emphasize is I think that we ought to bring back, really emphasize vocational schools, and we really ought to emphasize apprenticeship programs. My staff and I toured the Pipe Fitters Union Local 208 in Adams County, and that was wonderful. It was wonderful. It's a huge opportunity for people, and the education is really affordable, and they learn a tremendous trade, and the union is like a family, and they're pretty much set for life. Plus, it seemed to me like they were learning really interesting skills, that they would be able to use their whole life. I was fascinated by it. I really, truly was.
Yes,
As a matter of fact, one of my staffers has even mentioned the fact that she was thinking about, entering the apprenticeship program at that particular local. So we'll see if that
Okay.
happens.
Now let me put in a plug for our local IBEW. I think they have the best apprenticeship program around. So electricians that get paid, starting off like $28 an hour and all those good things. I've been thinking about doing it myself. I've been begging them. They said you're too old. But yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
When we talk about the trades, they make a tremendous living, those people that go out and learn a trade and learn it well and do a great job for America. That brought me right on to the subject that I wanted to talk to you about. You talked about leveling the field back there. Now, let me talk about, when I talk about leveling the field, I talk about saying, okay, we have a problem on numerous things like immigration, numerous things that we have problems with because all of the good jobs are going out to India and Mexico and China and all the places where they have slave labor, I might call it almost. They don't pay a living wage. Now, I think in the United States of America, if we passed a wage law that said the minimum wage is $8 an hour, and all the products that we bring into the United States, if they're made in Mexico, we must pay those workers $8 an hour down there for, solve the immigration problem right off, because most of the Mexican guys that come up here, they come up for the economics.
That's
not
right.
because they like North America, the Americans up here so much, but I don't blame them. If I were in the financial shape they are in, I would be looking for a good job too. So that's what I call leveling the playing field. Let's quit exporting our jobs, importing all the people from other countries to do this, or as we do these things. So what do you think about that?
I completely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And I think that we've got to stop giving tax breaks to big corporations who do outsource all their jobs to places like India and China. And we do have to keep our jobs here, and we do have to pay the workers here a prevailing, a livable wage. And I will tell you that it gets harder and harder for all of us to make a living out here in the world. And my opponent has been a government worker for many, many years, and I don't know if he appreciates what it's like for the rest of us out here, but we're trying to make a living, and we need to do everything we can. We need to lower gas prices. We need to at least investigate price gouging at the gas pump, and we need to make the federal government responsible for enforcing the immigration laws that are all federal laws. And I would absolutely make sure that we did that if I were Attorney General. And it's been a pleasure to be here.
Fern, not if you were, when you
When
are.
I am.
Thank
That's
you
right.
very much.
Thank you.
And El Paso County, have a good evening, and thanks for tuning in. Good night.